Are we live?
I want to break free.
Good morning, everyone.
I want to.
I'm Cindy Hernandez. I'm a licensed massage therapist, NLP practitioner, and immigrant identity coach. So I help people from immigrant cultural backgrounds release limitations and start creating that life that they want. And so today we thought we would play that song, and I'm going to let Valerie talk.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Valeri. I'm an intuitive heart healer, energy artist, and spiritual guide. I help light beings connect to their heart center magic so that they can live a life full of love, happiness, joy, guided by their higher self and intuition. And today we are talking about breaking free of our routines.
Traditional comfort zone.
Comfort zone. Oh my God. I need to break free of this migraine I have going on that's causing a little confusion this morning.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about all of the things that we get comfortable with. And there's so many, and it starts with the little things too. It's not just the big things that we think to get out of our comfort zone, but it's really just the small things. Like I was telling Val, one of the big things is breaking free of the thoughts that I have, really breaking out of that comfort zone of thinking a certain way and actually creating something different. We often, so when we're in this same loop in our thoughts, it's kind of it can be difficult to break free from those thoughts because you want to go back to the same thing. And it's just the same with you getting up out of your bed. You always go to the one side rather than, switching it up. And it's the same thing with your thoughts. We have the same patterns. And until we, release that and create something different, that's going to serve us better, because the way that we're doing things just keeps us in the same loop. And so the thought is one of the things that I really wanted to break free from and really get out of that comfort zone of, it's comfortable to say that, you know, just thoughts, let's say you're constantly thinking that you're in the lack. You get comfortable in that. You get comfortable in that thought of not having enough, not being enough, not doing enough, rather than shifting that and creating a new one that's saying, I am enough, I have enough, I always am okay, and I always have all of this. But since we're so used to going back into that state, that it becomes challenging to shift out of it. But it's something that we need to do in order to grow, in order to evolve, in order to ascend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And, we get into this comfort zone every day, with everything. So our thoughts are one thing. If we want to change our thoughts, we work on changing what we say to ourselves. But it's also more than that. It's changing the way we feel. And it's also our routine, what we do every day. We get so comfortable. If you look at your what you eat, are you eating the same thing every day, every week? Those things, because we're comfortable with what we eat.
Mm-hmm.
We're used to having this certain food all the time, or every Friday is pizza. Well, what if every Friday wasn't Pizza Friday? What would you do? It's break out of the comfort zone. And it's even in the way you move through life, the way you go to the grocery store, the way you move through the grocery store, the way you drive to work, the routines that you have. You do them because it becomes routine, and you're not even thinking. And that's part of the thing is you're not even thinking, you're just doing. Mm-hmm. So you're in that state of doing, and you can be so checked out when you're in the state, because you're just how many times have we said that, oh, I don't know how I got here, my car just took me here, because we went the same way, and we weren't even present in the moment. So you're just in this comfort zone and you're moving through life, and it's the same. And it's what did somebody say to me? It's my life's the same. It's just Groundhog's Day every day, every day. You got to do something to break free. Like we had Queen playing. I got to break free in the beginning, because we have to do something to break free of our comfort zone. And you could start with one little thing to start getting out of your comfort zone, get out of the same rituals, the same practices that you have every day, so that you can start making different changes and shifts and be more present in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, we find comfort in everything that we do. Like we find comfort in the way that we wake up and the way that we sleep. We find comfort in all of these things. We find comfort in the pain. Honestly, we do find comfort in the pain too. We because I'm a massage therapist, so people often tell me, what, I just leave it like that. It's been there for a while. I just, I don't I it's normal. So now you start to normalize things because that's what's comfortable, like, to you to feel in that pain rather than trying to do something different about it and start to heal that. For me, it's like killing that muscle. Like, what are you going to do in order to release that comfort? Because now you're just sitting in it and now you don't want to change it because you're so used to it being there. So it's kind of like this attachment too to to it being the way that it is because it's been there for so long. It's been like that for so long, rather than releasing that and shifting it and making it go into a position that is more comfortable. Not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you're doing in the state of being that you're just kind of in this doing and not paying attention, um, you're you're not being intentional of what you want to create in your life.
Hmm.
So, there's just small things that you can do to start breaking out of your comfort zone. You know, um, let's say you want to stand in your power and, really be comfortable with who you are, be in your power and bring in that energy. Wearing the color yellow, which most people tend to not be drawn to wear, that could be breaking out of your comfort zone. So if you're somebody that doesn't wear yellow at all, just wearing the color yellow, changing, a color in your wardrobe is a shift to help shift you out of your comfort zone. It doesn't have to be these like big things. Oh, I'm going to pack up and move across town and live somewhere else, or I'm going to do this. Sometimes doing those big shifts when you've been in such this constant state of just being could be very traumatic for you. So starting on small things and building up to a bigger shift um, could be a lot more beneficial to you. And for some people, ripping the band-aid off is the beneficial way. So it's kind of figuring out your way, and when you really start to tap into your heart center and know you'll be able to do this. But it's just like doing little things, changing the color of your shirt, waking up in the morning and eating something different.
Yeah.
Don't go to your favorite lunch spot. Find something new,
Yeah.
even if it's a disaster, because it'll start to get you to think differently, to get out of your comfort zone, and you're actually thinking. When you're like ordering for the same thing, it's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna have the same, and
Yep.
it's just the same.
Yeah. It's interesting because like I come from a Spanish background. So like the foods that we eat are, I mean, they're not that they're unhealthy, but it's just like you get used to the same types of food. You get used to the same type of seasoning, to the same type of things because we're so used to, seeing it and doing it so often that we get comfortable with, that food. And this
Mhm.
is one thing that I just shifted my diet recently, like last week. I shifted it and now I'm mostly pescatarian. So like I only right now I'm mostly eating fish and a lot of greens, a lot of vegetables. And it's something that, my family's not used to. They're used to having their meat. They're used to having, the adobo, the all of the seasonings. And right now I'm not, I'm like shifting away from that. And it's it hasn't been challenging, honestly. Like it's just different. It's just not the same thing. Like, and this is something that you taught me too, is like about the meat. You know, if I was going vegetarian or something, not to expect, you know, the meat to taste the same, because I'm not like what we would do is we would place like this expectation that we want something to taste the same way that, you know, we usually taste something. And that's really helped me, because now I'm not looking for meat. I'm not looking for, you know, that taste of the meat. I just don't even like, I'm okay with whatever, like the vegetables, with all of the other foods, but I'm not
Mhm.
expecting, you know, the not the fake meat to taste like meat. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's really about just shifting that, and, you know, releasing that comfort in the food, because we get so comfortable with what we eat, with our taste buds get comfortable. And if you're feeding them something else, it's like, okay, well, this is different.
Mhm.
And you can just go that way.
And our bodies are like our bodies shift and change too. So it needs different things.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it wants different things. You know, in the summertime, it wants more things that are going to be like colder, like watermelon and things like that. In the wintertime, it wants things that are a little bit more hardier, that's going to stay with you, that keep you warm. But we getting to like the food and becoming a vegetarian or a vegan, one of the things that in our mindsets it's so change that we really have to change our thinking on when we start to do this is that we're so ingrained where you have like your meat, your starch, your veggie. It's like your meat is your big meal, and it's like, okay, so if I take out the meat, what do I put there? I'm like, well, why don't you just change the way your whole dish looks like?
Yeah.
I eat a lot of bowls. I mix things together. Like I made something the other day and I just was throwing it together and I was like, I don't know what this is going to taste like. It was so amazing. And I'm like, I did it so intuitively. I don't even know if I can make it again, but it was so good and I enjoyed it so much. And I was like, wow. And I just let it just like we talked about yesterday, the Tuesday, I just let it come through me and make it. And I was having fun and I was enjoying it. And when you do that with anything in life, when you have fun and you work with, it's so much better. Your food tastes better and everything like that. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
about
it's getting
playing around with your seasonings too. You know, not getting
yeah,
comfortable with the same seasonings, and just try different things, getting out of that comfort zone.
and
The way that you
yeah,
drive, noticing it, like get comfortable with, you know, sitting a certain way, slouching down, slouching back, or just sitting up, whatever, you know, shifting
yeah.
it.
And before we were talking, I was telling you about how recently, you put your hands, like, you put your hands a certain way, you have your thumbs a certain way, and it feels really comfortable. And then you go the other way, and maybe it doesn't feel as comfortable because naturally you just go back to this, so you go back to the one way. But if you go the other way, it doesn't necessarily feel comfortable. And a couple of weeks ago, I started just doing that. Like when I was sitting there watching TV or something, and I'm like, I want to break through this. Like, I want this to become comfortable. I want this to become natural. I don't know really why I was doing it. It was just something that I just started doing. And like, I want this to be comfortable. I want to break through this. Um, but in relationship to, there was something that was also going on within me. Like I was going through something. I talked about this before, where I had like this sadness that was like sitting there, that I was just, it didn't want to come out. And it wasn't until we were talking about it that I realized that I started doing this thing, and then I started to have the big shifts in my getting that out. So just making that small little shift to break through that uncomfortability allowed me to actually also release those emotions and things. So it just takes a little thing.
Yeah.
Whether you brush your teeth, like you said, with your other hand, or you get up on a different side of the bed, you wear different colors than you're used to,
Mhm.
turn on different music.
Yeah.
Um, just small little things. When you walk out the door, walk out a different door or take a different route to work, enter the grocery store in a different way if you can, or start on a different aisle. All these little things, and it'll feel uncomfortable. Like it will feel uncomfortable. You're like, oh, this feels weird.
Yeah.
But when you start doing that, you gotta have to it changes your whole mindset and it changes your whole thinking. You actually have to begin to think again instead of just be on this older autopilot. And you're like, okay, really, what do I want to accomplish here? And you might leave the store and forget things. I did that the other day. I walked in, they didn't have what one of the things I wanted. Everything that I needed, I totally forgot. I got home, I was like, "Oh, I didn't get this, I didn't get this, I didn't get this." And I'm like, oh well, next time, because I'm not going back. But it's also like accepting that. Like I didn't get mad at myself. I was like, oh well, whatever.
Yeah.
But it was just like my routine, my thing was disrupted. It threw me off my game. I couldn't think, and then I forgot a bunch of things. But the more that you start doing this, the more you start thinking again for yourself.
And I just wanted to, now that you like mentioned that, like I wanted to like I wanted to say that when you're breaking out of that pattern, so like now your brain is functioning, because what happens, it stops functioning the way that it is. It's just autopilot, right? So like um just imagine, like I just think of my dad, like because he was very like very quick for things, and he would like always try different things in order so that, like when you think of dementia, like it's like this pattern, right? And then like if you're allowing yourself to do different things each day, you're like breaking free from like having those symptoms of dementia, like having that fog, because it's actually like it's like when you think of math problems, right? It's different ways. Like right now with the kids, like the different math that's coming out. It's not different. Well, it is different, but like it's different ways, but the same answer, and they're allowing the children to learn different ways. It's not just one way, like the way that we've been taught. And it's interesting because like I saw this post one time of somebody asking, how do you add this problem up? And then the way that people add things up, it was all so different. Like it was like not just one way. I was like, wow, I never knew that you could add it that way. And I never thought. And now that I'm doing the homework with my daughter too, like, and I see all of the ways that they add up, I'm like, wow, that makes sense. That's so interesting that, you know, we get taught a certain way and we do it just a certain way. Like with the way that I was taught math, I was only taught one way to do math. So that's all I had. And so now when I look at my daughters, it's like she has all of these options of how to do that math. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing, because now it's allowing their brains to function even more so that they can think of different strategies, different things, different like things, because now when you have different strategies, you're not just looking at that one that we're so used to. And that's what happens with us. We get used to that one way, so we only look this way rather than looking at the million of other strategies that they are.
Yep, and all the possibilities that are out there for us, because we are on this tunnel vision, kind of like the race horses. They put the blinders on so they only see one direction, and when we're stuck in our comfort zone, we're in that one direction.
Yeah.
So
It's funny because they used to make fun, like my family used to make fun of me because like I was like that. I was like this all the time. And like I would only look at certain things, like, no, don't look that way, don't look this way. It's just here. Like I wouldn't fight anything or I wouldn't like resist anything, but it was just like I didn't know anything other than just that. So it's like they would say that I was like a horse with the little things so that she doesn't get distracted.
and you know what? It's kind of like just kind of talking about this and doing this right now. That's kind of how, as a collective consciousness, that's how we are. Not all of us, but like, if you see what's going on right now, people that are like show one way and then show the other way. And I'm not saying one or other is good or bad, because I don't label things like that. But like they're so here that they don't even want to see
Hmm.
what one person has to say
They're not
or what
open to it.
they're not open to it. They're like, no, it's this, and this. And if we can just begin to get out of our comfort zones, even with conversations, and having these conversations, these really deep conversations with people, and like listen, really listen, that will start to make big shifts in everything. And you can even do this with yourself. Are you listening to yourself? Are
Mhm.
you listening to what your higher self is saying to you? Or are you just so stuck in this comfort zone? It's this, and this. A friend of mine the other day got a bone stuck in her throat. And I was sending her healing, and I was like, okay, she has to go get this surgically, like they're gonna have to surgically remove this. And I said, wow, is this really like, this is really Mercury retrograde in full force. And what came through is like, what is she not listening to? What
Mhm.
is it she needs to hear? Because if it was really like speaking, she'd be able to speak. But now that, with this being there, not able to speak, it's about listening. And that, I think, is where the big lessons for us as a collective has to be, like really listening.
Yeah, and it's really just that. Like all you have to do is listen. You don't have to agree, you don't have to disagree, just listen. But sometimes we're so closed off that we don't want to listen because all we want to think about is what we have to think. And it's
Yeah.
like I wanted to use this analogy because it's like when I say if I would to say to you, Valerie, wow, you're so beautiful. And I love that shirt on you. I think that brings out your eyes or whatever, like if I say something really nice to you and you're this person who doesn't have that, self-love within herself, you would the first thing that you would do is like, thank you, but that's not true because blah blah blah. And then like you have all of these like thoughts that form of as to why I'm wrong, rather than just accepting it. Like fucking accept the fact that you're beautiful. But
Yeah.
we resist it and we don't want to listen to anything else because all that we're thinking is our
Mhm.
thoughts rather than allowing somebody's thoughts on you, because that's my perception on you, is that you're beautiful. So if that's my perception on you, why am I wrong for having that perception? Rather than
And
accepting it. That's her perception of me. You know what? Thank you.
yeah, and that's one way. That is one thing to get out of your comfort zone. When
Mhm.
somebody does offer you a compliment,
Yeah.
you know, say thank you,
Yeah.
and then begin to say thank you. And you don't have to say it out loud, the second part, but like thank you, it's true, because then you start to believe it. Like you don't need to say it's true to the person, but if you say it in your head, that also helps out. And that's one way to break out of that pattern, because you're right. People are like, oh, this old thing,
Yeah.
or oh, I just threw this on, I didn't even like do my hair today, or I got no makeup on. Like there's always these excuses, like why can't you just be beautiful the way you are?
Yeah.
And I actually had a client, and we were talking about that, and I was like, nice sweatshirt. He goes, my response wouldn't be, what issue you have with my sweatshirt? Why do you think it's nice? And it was like so defensive, and I was like, wow, I've never like heard it, like never heard it that way. And it was like he is questioning why people would say nice things to him, like
Mhm.
but it was another way of like, not feeling deserving, but he wanted to know why people would even think that something was nice for him. And he came through so aggressive and so defensive. And um and he's never appeared that way to me, so it was really interesting. And I was like, wow, like people have all these really like different thoughts in your head, and you never know what's going on. But just making that shift, that little shift, is just saying thank you, and just be in the accepted part.
I
And
think it
it's
has to do with society too, like we're so, used to not getting compliments from people that it's kind of weird. And I think of like the scene in Mean Girls when the one girl says, "Oh, I love your bracelet," and she really hates it. and like that's also like in your subconscious mind, because if you watch that movie then you'd know, but it's in your subconscious mind that every time somebody compliments you, you think they're being sarcastic. That's not true. But you don't know what the hell the person's thinking. Like maybe they do truly like it and it's not out of sarcasm, but it's already subconsciously there, that it's like, okay, every time somebody compliments me, that's a lie.
But when you're in your heart space and you really love your bracelet, it doesn't matter what other people think. So if somebody's being sarcastic and like, "Oh, I love your bracelet." "Oh, thank you so much. It's one of my favorite." And like, "Oh, well, I wasn't joking." I'm like, "Well, I love it. So thank you. I appreciate the compliment." Like it's a different, but it's all about starting to feel comfortable within you and just starting to make little changes will start to make bigger changes throughout. So do things to get you out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips, other tips to add to it?
I would just say like pay attention if you're getting comfortable in certain spots. Like just notice your reactions too. Like what's coming up. Like just notice what emotions are coming up, because is there a lot of resistance? If there's a lot of resistance, then maybe, you know, try finding a different way to do it, but start doing it slowly, because there's resistance for some reason. And it's like, I don't know, it's just different. Like it's different. Like we're just doing things differently. And we have to, you know, get in that mentality of trying to do things differently all the time and being open to all of the perspectives, all of the different opportunities, different options that we have, rather than just sticking to that one. I would just say just be open. Like be open and be aware of what's coming up when you do things differently.
Yeah. And I would say one thing, a couple of things actually, but like one thing, like notice if you go and you sit in the same chair at the table all the time, or if you go into like a restaurant or a cafeteria or wherever it is that you may eat lunch or whatever. Do you go sit in the same spot all the time? Do you sit and watch TV in the same spot every time? And then make a change. So once you notice that you're like, oh my God, every day I go and I sit at this table or I sit at this chair, go sit at a different chair and see things from a different perspective, because then it'll start to allow you to see things from a different. And it might feel weird, it might feel uncomfortable, but these are the things that'll help get you out of that and really start getting you to think more, and then you will actually start to see more of your possibilities, and then you make other shifts um, with the way you go to work. And but until you notice that you have these certain patterns, then it's, yeah, now it's your time to really start noticing them and then start making change. And if you like I said, if it's like pizza every Friday, do something different. Change the way you hold your hands, or the way you do your hair, or the different clothes, these little things, and then start changing the way you start to talk to yourself. Because once you start to notice one thing, you'll start to notice others. And energetically, like I said, with me, just by shifting the way I held my thumb when I held my hands like this, it shifted something within me. And some things may come up, but it's because now you're allowing them to come up, and allow those motions to come out. Allow yourself to see things from a different perspective. Open yourself up to all your possibilities,
Yeah.
and start saying some affirmations that you feel will lift you up.
Yep. And it's about creating, like, you know, when you're saying these affirmations, even if you don't believe them yet, like if you're constantly saying them, you'll start to believe them. If you bring in that new pattern of like something that you used to always say, like if you used to always say I'm broke, bring in something else and shifting that. Like even if it does feel uncomfortable, it feels uncomfortable when you're so used to saying I'm broke all the time. Shift that. It like our vocabulary gets comfortable sometimes that we even have to shift that and change
Yeah.
that and do something different. And I wanted to mention one thing, like that you had said, the rituals too. Like right now we're in this time of, you know, a lot of magic, a lot of good things to come, but like it's about shifting ourselves, right? So like notice your rituals. Like you made me realize this, that I wanted to change something different about my ritual. So like now I used to do it, like I wanted to do it every morning. I would do it every morning. And then it's like maybe I need to shift that a little bit. Maybe I need to do something different. Maybe I need to just I'm so used to doing it in a certain corner that maybe I need to shift it to another corner and just start moving things.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, the full moon is on Saturday on Halloween, which the veil is thin. I mean, there's so much going on this time of year, but it's like the Day of the Dead where your ancestors, it's believed you can talk to your ancestors a lot. And like, a lot of people will do a ritual, or they'll do an altar to remember and honor their ancestors and bring them through. So there's so many different things and so many different ways that you can create. And somebody in one of the groups that I was in, they're like, oh, Archangel Raphael wanted me to make an altar for him. Like, what do I put on it? Like, should I do this? And I'm like, you already know. It doesn't have to look a certain way.
Hmm.
We're all different. And if Archangel Raphael's already talking to you, have a conversation. Would you like a green candle on that? Would you like me to put this on that? Or what feels right to you? Like, I actually set up something behind me, which I hadn't had for a while, but I felt called to. And I know that this is what it is for now. Next month it might not look like this, because the energy that I might want to be creating behind me might not be this. And like, pictures might change, crystals might change, and that's okay. It doesn't have to stay the same, because energetically we're constantly reminding. And that's part of breaking out of our comfort zone,
Hmm.
is allowing that, and like saying, you know what, Buddha doesn't want to sit here anymore. Buddha's got him home. And they will talk to you.
It's
I might sound
true.
like a crazy person, but they talk to you. Like, I've walked into somebody's house, and I literally was like, yeah, that Buddha does not want to be there. And they kind of looked at me and like, not very happy. You have to find a different space for them. And they're like kind of looking at me, and I'm like, I'm just telling you what it's saying to me, because it's just not saying. And like, yeah, I've done this to other people. That person I didn't really know. It's usually people that I know a little bit better. Yeah, I walked into somebody else and they had something around. I'm like, yeah, that necklace is choking him. Like, you need to let it go. And they're like, what? And they're like, oh my God. And then like, you could feel the energy shift in the room. And it's just like little things.
Yeah.
And when you start to like break out of your comfort zone, you might notice it. Like, oh my God, my plant's not happy here. And it might not be like drastic, like you just have the feeling like, oh my God, that it just seems like it's so suffocating. Well, the plant's actually communicating to you, so that move it. But you'll notice these things once you start to like break through these different things.
Yeah.
And your rituals can be whatever you want. It's whatever's in your heart. It doesn't have to be a certain way. So
All right. So I think that's it for today. And where can they find you, Val?
and you could go to intuitivehearthealer.com to find out all my offerings. You can also follow me on Instagram at Intuitive Heart Healer, or join my Facebook group, Intuitive Heart Healer. And yeah, that's
And
it.
what's your workshop that you're having? The event.
On Sunday, I teamed up with my friend and astrologer Ursula, and it's called Universal Healing. So it's healing the universe within you. It's going to be learning about a little bit about astrology, your natal chart, what the houses mean, what the planets mean, because our natal charts are actually like imprinted inside of us. Our universe is in here. And so when things in the universe shift, planets shift, it affects us all differently. So beginning to understand your natal chart and paying attention to what's going on above, you can actually work with these. And so we're going to teach you some of that. We're going to do some healings and meditations with that, clearing out some ancestral or timeline karmas, they call it in astrology that you bring into your natal chart and clearing some of those out. And I'm really looking forward to it. It's a perfect day. You know, it's the day after the blue moon. There's a lot going on with your Uranus, Mercury in retrograde, Mars still in retrograde. There's conjunctions that are going on. So there's a lot going on this weekend, and it's just the perfect time to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds amazing. And you guys can find me at cinderellaspa.com and on Instagram, Cinderella Spa, and here on Facebook at Cindy Hernandez. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday. So have a great day.
Bye, everybody.